sum totaling millions of francs. No doubt Philippe took extra joy in besting his former banker. To his right sat Pope Clément, a balding, meek man who avoided Déteus's glare and instead examined his cuticles and coughed into a bejeweled handkerchief. Clément had fled Rome and moved to the papal court of Avignon, subjugating him to the whims of the French king. Philippe smirked at Déteus. "Your face disgusts me. Perhaps you should stop picking at your scabs." Déteus mustered what little saliva he could in his mouth, lifted his head, and spat at the leering monarch. Philippe laughed and sipped from his goblet, his guests taking their cue and doing the same. He motioned to the guards, who splashed grease into the fire and slopped animal fat onto Déteus's legs using an oversized basting brush. The flames leapt at his ankles. He lifted his knees reflexively. "You spit at me now, just as you and your fellow Templars spit on the cross and disparage our Lord Jesus Christ," Philippe said. It was a common charge against the order, and not entirely untrue. It brought the eyes of Pope Clément off his fingernails. Philippe leaned forward. "I have been told you have something you'd like to tell us, Déteus." Déteus had rehearsed his words for weeks. There was no sense in delaying further. He raised his chin and filled his lungs. "I confess to this, and this alone. I worship the God in heaven. Upon my death, my soul will reside in his kingdom." He shifted his eyes between Philippe and the Pope. "It is you who are the sinners. It is you who blaspheme the true God. It is you who profane the Lord by claiming divinity for the thief on the cross." The Pope's eyes widened in fear. The royal party gasped. "The thief on the cross!" the Pope wheezed, turning to the French king. "What is this heresy?" Philippe jumped to his feet and shouted to the guards. "Silence him! Make him stop!" Déteus nodded to his brother knight crouched on the roof beyond. A crossbow arrow sailed through the air, piercing Déteus's heart. He smiled as he took his final breath. "We know the truth. We have the bones." He exhaled, revealing the Vatican's most guarded secret. Chapter 1. November, Modern Times. Cameron Thorne leaned over the lectern and paused. A few seconds of well-timed silence drew attention more effectively than a raised voice. Not that the crowd of breakfasting Freemasons had been inattentive so far. They seemed fascinated by his description of artifacts evidencing exploration of America by the Knights Templar during medieval times. But Cam wanted to end strong. The clanking of silverware in the crowded Holiday Inn function room ebbed. Cam smiled, reflecting on life's strange journey. 2 years ago, he toiled in a large Boston law firm, a 30-something attorney trying to do something meaningful in a profession that so often rewarded the meaningless. Now he was part of a group of researchers helping to change the way Americans viewed their history, and having the time of his life. As the Native Americans say, Christopher Columbus was the last person to discover America, and we have the ancient artifacts and sites to prove it. He spoke staccato-like, counting off on the fingers of his left hand. The Kensington Rune Stone, the Newport Tower, the Bat Creek Stone, the Spirit Pond Rune Stones, the Westford Knight. He held up 5 fingers. "That's 5. I could give you 20 more. These artifacts are real, and their authenticity has been scientifically established. They didn't appear here by magic." The eyes of his mostly male audience locked on his. The bottom line is that the archaeologists and historians need to offer an explanation for these artifacts that's a bit more academically rigorous than putting their fingers in their ears and yelling "hoax" every time they see one, because that's not going to cut it anymore. Here it was in a nutshell. So we say to those so-called experts, "You are entitled to your own opinions." He slapped the podium with an open palm. "But you are not entitled to your own facts." A stooped, gray-haired man in a long golf shirt pushed his chair.